Hi, I'm Doug McKinley and you're watching Adorama TV. We're in and around London today looking to put some motion into our pictures. First up, some panning shots, followed by some slow motion using neutral density filters.
Adorama TV presents Stay Focused with Doug McKinley.
So on the surface, panning looks like a no-brainer. You pick up your subject in the distance, it comes by, you follow it, you press the button. The reality though, it's not quite that simple. There's a lot of factors involved here to get it right. First and foremost, there's a lot of practice. But you need to think about things like the distance from yourself to the subject, the focal length of your lens, and of course the shutter speeds. After all, shutter speeds is the real creative tool in getting good pan pictures. So what we're going to do today on Southwark Bridge is I'm using a short lens, a 24mm lens. I'm going to try and pick up some of the cars that are coming past me at the moment and see what we get. We're going to start with a shutter speed of about 1/30th of a second. We can always adjust. I think for people who are just starting to look at this technique, it's a good place to start. Here we go. It's good practice to set your focus, your autofocus, to AI servo or continuous focusing. Because even though the picture is going to be a little blurry, I still want to get focus lock. Now releasing the shutter is best when the subject is about more or less perpendicular to you, or a little bit off, maybe 10 degrees off. It takes a lot of practice to get this right. And remember, you've got to follow through the swing, like a golfer hitting a ball. It's probably one of the most important parts. If you miss that, you probably cut your subject in half. It just takes a lot of practice. So now we're going to experiment a little with shutter speeds and focal lengths. So I'm going to change my 24mm to a longer lens. Here we're going to use the 70 to 200mm 2.8 zoom lens. Now these things can get a bit heavy. If you're using them all day, you can get a little tired. So what I suggest, if you've got one, is to mount it onto a monopod, remembering to use the tripod collar that's attached to the lens. It's a simple setup. Just like the monopod, it just clips in with the quick release head and locks in place. Now I know we're doing blurs, but sometimes we want to put a little bit of freezing action into our pictures, including the blur. And the best way to do this is using a speed light or flash. So what we do is we take our speed light, we attach it to the hot shoe on the flash, turn it on, and then set the rear curtain sync mode. It's a little shuttlecock on the back of the flash here. Now rear curtain sync is a mode that allows the flash to fire at the end of the shutter cycle, just as the shutter curtains are closing. This will guarantee almost a little bit of freeze action in your picture. So what we're going to do with these long lens now is we're going to start shooting pedestrians with the camera across the road. We'll get some nice blurs as they're walking past. So I think we've achieved what we're looking for. We've used our long lens. We've picked up our subject, which is a pedestrian across the other side of the bridge. She's a bit soft, what we wanted. The background's soft, but her face has got a little sharpness in it. So job done. One quick thing about backgrounds, remember they're part of the image, so picking a good one will only strengthen the picture. A colorful one will give a great streaky effect in your pictures, while a neutral one will highlight the subject itself. Next up is putting motion into the pictures using specialist filters. Don't forget to check out Adorama's latest contest where you could win some amazing prizes. So we're at the location I like, right in front of St. Paul's, looking down onto the Millennium Bridge across the river. And I'm going to get set up. I've chosen a 300mm f4 lens today, just because I want a lot of reach and I want to compress the picture. Now these longer lenses, they come with these tripod collars. And they're really, really great. They help to balance the whole setup. Because if you mount it onto the camera itself, it'll get top heavy and it could fall over and smash, or it could damage the mount between the lens and the camera body. So I'm going to go ahead and hook it up to the tripod. So once it's mounted on the tripod, there's a couple things we've got to do. One of the things we have to think about is mirror lockup. This is an easy thing to attain. It's in your menu. You just find it, switch it to on, and once you've done the mirror lockup, you have to remember to set the driver to either 2 seconds or 10-second release. Otherwise, this won't work. The next component of this is using a cable release, which I happen to have in my pocket here. We'll attach that to the side of the camera. And what this does, the combination of the mirror lockup and the cable release, is allows us to shoot with the release and reduce any kind of camera shake that might occur if we're using when we're using long exposures. If you tap the button with your finger, funny enough, it will move the camera and cause the blur where you don't want it. Now we're almost there. So next up is the bracket, the filter bracket. It's a pretty easy setup. It's 2 pieces. The first piece attaches to the front of the lens, like so. And then the actual carrier snaps onto the front. And that gets us all ready to attach our filter. But what we're going to do first, though, is we're going to think about composition here. We want to get ourselves set up into a nice image that we can use for comparison later. Now, these are essentially landscape pictures, so you have to think about the landscape rules. Remember your rules of thirds, linear lines, everything to manual, any kind of perspective you might want to use. Now remember, at this point, we've got a cable release to use, so don't touch the camera once you've got it all set up. One more time, remembering to turn the focus on the lens to manual. So that's not too bad. That'll work really well, I think, for a comparison picture. And at this point, it's crucial that we get a meter reading. Let me just do that. This is our baseline reading, so we're going to work from. So make sure you remember it. At this point, I'm going to add this filter to the front. Now you'll notice with these stronger filters, the 6-stop and the 10-stop filter, they have a little rubber gasket around the outside edge. What this does is help to stop light from leaking into the lens and onto the sensor and ruining the exposure. So I'm going to slide it into the filter holder, making sure the gasket's camera side, and into the slot that's closest to the lens. Make sure that you're covering the whole lens, like that. Now, to calculate the proper exposure with this filter, 1/15 of a second will equal, let me just check the cheat sheet that comes along with these filters, which is a really great little tool. So 1/4 of a second equals 15 seconds. So we're going to go ahead and expose it at 15 seconds and see what we get. Now we're ready to go. Remember, don't touch the camera. Use the release. It's a waiting game now. 15 seconds. Sometimes it feels like an eternity. Looking at this picture, there's 2 things I noticed first. It's a little underexposed, so that tells me that I have to increase the exposure a little bit. Remember, these cheat sheets are great, but they're just a baseline. You have to adjust yourself. The second thing I noticed is that it's a little bit too bright on the top. So in order to try and balance that out, I'm going to use a graduated neutral density filter sliding in front of the ND filter. This will help to balance the whole picture out. So I'm going to increase the exposure by about 5 seconds. And using our release, I'm going to go ahead and watch what happens. Now our goal is to try and make the people look a bit like a river, but we'll see. So we've got a couple of pictures in the can. When I look at these 2 images, I much prefer the one with the ND filter. The one without the filter, it's a fine enough picture, but the one with the filter tends to give it a little more action, a little more edge. It's just more interesting. And it does indeed make the people of London look like a river. So that's it for me, and I'm Doug McKinley for Adorama TV. You can subscribe to Adorama TV. We'd like to hear what you think. You can like, comment, or share this video. And don't forget to stop by the Adorama Learning Center for more great tips and tricks.
Do you want great-looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy-to-use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use AdoramaPix.com.